And it's interesting because very often you'll find people who vehemently criticize you. You'll often find that what they're doing is they're kind of like projecting a little bit. And he says, oh, Richard is appealing to like alt-righters and Nazis and red pillars and MRAs. And I'm just doing that. I don't see how any of my views are consistent with that. I was at the Daily Dot. I wrote articles criticizing people for perceived racial slights. Then I got a Breitbart, and I just think it went too far. I went to Breitbart because it was a chance to hang out with people I thought were interesting and cool, like Alan Bakari, Milo Yiannopoulos, and I went there because it was also a chance to publish things without being edited. Like, why is it that on the Daily Dot, I can write an article about Tim Hunt being a sexist pig, but I can't write the article that when it was brought to light that those female journalists lied, there was a recording proving that they lied in their coverage, right? I can't publish that story at the Daily Dot. And quote, I was told by an editor of the section, I've still got this copied, we don't want to go after any woman's job. Meanwhile, that individual had written an article saying Whoopi Goldberg was a disgrace for defending Bill Cosby by saying he was innocent until proven guilty. Happy to go after her job. He was saying The View or whatever it was, whatever show she's on, should be cancelled. It was hypocrisy all over the place at the Daily Dot. That's why I left. It's got nothing to do with me being some fucking alt-right, MRA, red-pilled Nazi. I saw an opportunity to publish things that I think are important in an uncensored environment. I vehemently disagree with a lot of stuff that got put out by Breitbart. I think their climate skepticism coverage is appalling. I really do. I don't think the science on which they're basing it is sound. I don't think one guy going to a coral reef and saying that we're over-exaggerating about the bleaching, I don't think that warrants an article. I personally, if I was in charge of it, I would move away from that because they don't have people who have the credible expertise to stand up. And they're just pandering to the worst of climate change skeptics. Not saying all skeptics are the same. So, this is the nonsense. So I'm not trying to pander to that audience. Like, I don't like Nazis. I know this is going to come as a real shock to everyone. I really find them vile and detestable people to be around. I've been around racists. I don't like them or their views. You will not find me engaging in racist activity or even entertaining them. In fact, here's another thing that happened at the Daily Dot that people don't know about. I reached out to the moderator of the racist subreddit Coontown when that was allowed on Reddit. And I reached out to him. And in fact, actually, he'd reached out to me. This is before I was at Breitbart. This is when I was at the Daily Dot. He said, you have a good reputation because you handled your Gamergate coverage even and fairly, and I would like to tell you my story. And I said, dude, I don't know what the fucking story is with you. Because he operated under the name Eugene Nix. Eugene Nix. Now, Eugene Nix, as you can see, is a play on words of eugenics. And I've said that. I find these things like abhorrent, right? But he said, because I had a good reputation, because of how I handled Gamergate, and I didn't get fucking coddled like a lot of games journalists did, and fucking, spitting this narrative out about how it was people fucking abusing women online when it wasn't, and I saw no evidence of an organization that did that. I saw individuals doing it. I saw no structural hierarchy of harassment. So plenty of structural hierarchy of harassment on the other side, as we saw with the Crash Override Network leaks. Never saw it in the movement that was dubbed Gamergate. It wasn't a movement. It was a bunch of disparate people that were all over the place politically saying they'd had enough of games journalism. That's what I believe it is to this day. So anyway, he got in touch with me, and I was really reluctant. To speak to somebody from that background. I was really reluctant to talk to somebody that was, to me, an absolute clear racist, an irredeemable racist, somebody whose views could not be compatible with mine in any way, shape, or form. And I interviewed him, and over the course of the interview, he was telling me how, like, he had to keep his identity secret because actually he was well liked at work, and he had loads of, the classic, like, actually all my social group includes, like, blacks and this, and I'm not actually a racist, and I'm kind of doing it for a goof. And he even got kicked out of his own subreddit because he didn't believe that the Jews were responsible for everything. He got removed from being a moderator of a racist subreddit because he wasn't racist enough. Or so. The whole story was bonkers. Now, when I told the Daily Dot editors, and I said, I've got this guy, and it's from the most racist, toxic subreddit on Reddit. Do you want to run this interview? And they were falling over themselves. Going, oh, yeah, that'll be huge, Richard. How have you reached out to this guy? Did you have to go undercover? I'm like, no, he just approached me because of previous work I'd done. So he said, well, we'd love to publish this. We'd love to publish this. So I got the interview, and there was no way to write it up. Like, I felt like I had to end every paragraph saying, but I know this guy's a racist and I think he's a scumbag. And I know this guy's and I was like, this is going to detract from the whole interesting, fascinating aspects of the story. But I just felt so uncomfortable. I felt like I had to continually condemn this guy. And in the end, when I sent the story over to the editors, they were like, this makes him look human. We can't publish this. It makes him look not reasonable, but it makes him just look like another internet troll. So it was out the window. They never ran it. When I went to Breitbart, they said they'd love to take a look at it. And Breitbart were like, yeah, we can't really run this either. We think this is not the kind of content we really want on the site. So it just sat there. Nobody wanted to touch this. I mean, that's what makes me laugh as well, by the way. Breitbart, the supposed Nazi publication, wouldn't publish a piece that basically had a known racist, an established white supremacist on Reddit, basically saying it was all a goof and people got trolled. They wouldn't run that, which you would think would elicit some sympathy or something. I don't know. So that was the fucking situation, right? That we were in, and it's just crazy. This is why I had to get out of the Daily Dot, because it was, look, I loved the esports section, loved it, but the when I started trying to branch out, they stamped down everything that I wrote. They changed sentences in my articles without telling me about the edits. They wrote in one of my articles, keep in mind, I'm getting all these interesting people coming to me because of how I handled Gamergate. Every time I mentioned Gamergate in an article that I wrote for this section, they changed it to be like, Gamergate, a movement which harasses women. It's got my name on it. I didn't write that. So when people say, oh, why did you go to Breitbart? Milo Yiannopoulos sold a vertical, a publication to the Daily Dot called The Kernel. The Kernel, Kernel, The Kernel was where we put all of our best kind of features. I think I had a couple of articles in there. And Milo Yiannopoulos had ran that, built it up and sold it to them. And so I knew he had this association with the Daily Dot. And I spoke to Milo. I called him up, and because I'd seen him online, and he made time for me, right? This is when he was starting to hit the peak of his fame, and he took time to have a call out with me, and I said, dude, I don't know what to do. I'm getting fucking wrecked at the Daily Dot. They're undoing all of my work. They're changing stuff. They're attributing quotes to me that I didn't say. This is my editors. What the fuck do I do? Because I think I'm going to have to leave. And he just said to me, but, oh, honey, this is... he did say this. He went, oh, honey, This is what always happens at the Daily Dot. They never hold on to their best people. They're just terrible over there. They just inject their ideology into everything, and you just get out. And I went, I can't, Milo, mate. I can't.
Lick my balls.
I've got. I need the fucking job. I've built everything up over there. Cheers for the sub-electric soda. So he said, "Oh, don't you worry about that. We'll just give you a job at Breitbart. I'd love to get you involved. You're a big name. I know who you are, and I respect who you are." And I was like, "What, really?" And I said, "Dude, Breitbart?" I said, like, it might work for you as a gay man, as a white straight guy. If I go work for Breitbart, they are going to brand me a racist, everything. And he said, "Look, don't worry about all that. Why don't you come to my house for tea, and we'll sit down and we'll talk it through, right?" So that was that. Within one phone call, Milo had invited me to his home to come and discuss the future and to alleviate my fears about maybe making the jump. So we went down. I went down to his house, and I didn't know what to make of it. I think I went in a suit because I thought it was going to be like a job interview or something weird. And we just went to Milo's apartment, and I was just in his living room, and there was books piled everywhere, classics mainly. I think he was a classicist at university. And Alan Bakari, I think, had been over, and I think he left. I forget, because Alan was often there, but maybe this was the first time. And I sat down there, and Milo came in. He had like a fucking scarf on him. It was just like outrageously flamboyant as per. And he sat down, and he said, "Richard, tell me what you're worried about." And I said, "Dude, it's fucking Breitbart. It'll be a millstone round my fucking neck. It'll be a millstone round my neck for the rest of my life, for the rest of my career. People will always be able to say that I'm racist because I worked there." And he said, "Oh, darling, are you a racist?" And I said, "Well, no, of course not, dude." And he went, "So why do you care?" And I said, "Because it's public perception, it's public image." He goes, They've said it all about me, darling. They've said it all about me. They've said I'm a racist." He goes, in that bedroom over there, who just left before you came over there? Tyrone or something like this. This is true. And he said, I just love black dick. And I'm a racist. And I was like, okay, dude. So he starts talking about the history of Breitbart with me. We get into it, and we talk about how like Andrew Breitbart got castigated. You all know the famous cases. I think it was like Acorn and some other stuff where some edited videos had appeared. And he said that what happened to Andrew Breitbart was that he was somebody who didn't come from a journalistic background, trying to do journalism on the internet, had successful blogs, and he made a mistake that would happen to any other publication. And because it was targeted against liberals, he never lived that down, and they dragged him through the mud and smeared him as a racist. And he said, "I work at Breitbart. I'm a gay half Jew who exclusively dates black men. And I've talked to the owners of Breitbart, and they've given me everything I need, everything I want. They pay me incredibly well. They give me a platform, book deals, whatever I need, complete support." And he said, "And I'll tell you, out of all the staff that we work there," and he said, "it's incredibly diverse." He said, "Who do you work with at the Daily Dot?" And I said, "It's exclusively white men or white women, really. All the people I interact with." And he said, "Well, you've met me now, and Alan Bakari's half Pakistani, and all of this." And he said, "Just take the plunge. Just take the plunge. And you won't regret it." And so I was ticking it over in my mind, and I went away, and I read up on Andrew Breitbart some more, and I watched some documentaries, and I tried my hardest to find anything racist. And yes, I found some articles that were clearly right-wing and anti-immigration and that kind of thing. And I found things that were anti-Islam. But I didn't find anything that was like what I would call a hardcore racist piece, And when I looked at who was in the text section, it was diverse people. We were just writing about games, tech, the culture war. It was basically, the tech section of Breitbart was basically what Heat Street is. That's all it is. Now, if you think Heat Street is a racist publication, you're mentally ill. You're too far gone. But after meeting Milo and how nice he was to me, and he's an incredibly nice person, an incredibly generous person, how am I supposed to renounce this guy and portray him as a fucking bad human being when he wasn't any of those things? And you know what? The choice was clear. It was stay at the Daily Dot, make less money and have my content edited, or go to Breitbart with some super cool people who've been super nice to me and make more money and not have my content censored. It was a fucking no-brainer. It was a no-brainer. So the idea that I went because it appealed to me ideologically, I wrestled with it. Do you want to know what my job interview for Breitbart was? I went to Milo's house yet again for the second time or third time, and he sat me down. He was like, "Oh, hi, Richard. Just do me a favor. Just sit there." And he made me sit on his sofa. And he came over to me, and he had a MAGA hat, Make America Great Again, red cap, the classic red baseball cap. And I said, "Oh, you don't fucking support Donald Trump, do you? Like, the guy's a fucking idiot. Have you ever seen that documentary, You've Been Trumped?" And he's like, "Oh, Dad, he's fabulous. He's going to shake up the election. I can't wait to cover it." And he said, "But sit there." And he put this baseball cap on me, and he took a photo of it. So there's a photo of me in a Make America Great Again hat when I don't support Trump. And he took a photo of it, and then he just said, "Right, now you've got to take the job, because if you leave, I'll make that public." And he just kind of simpered into the kitchen to fix some cocktails. That was my job interview. That was how I got into Breitbart. So, again, the idea that these are bad people, that these are fucking Nazis and stuff is ridiculous. It's insane to me that people say this. And it's insane that people say that I went there because we were like ideologically aligned. I wrestled with that decision for weeks. And if Milo hadn't have been such a fucking baller and just such a nice person and just a good human being, I would never, I couldn't have gone. I couldn't have joined. He was Alan was cool, but Milo made it. He was like, "Look at me. They try and destroy me every day. Come on, Richard, nut the fuck up and get on board." And I even said to him when I left Breitbart to go and pursue work with Turner and everything, I even said to him, like, I feel like I'm being a conscientious objector in the culture war, because my eyes had been opened. I'd seen so much. I don't agree with Milo on everything. Milo's told me anecdotes about how he used to work at a scientific research facility doing climate change data or something, and that's what red-pilled him about climate change not being real. I don't agree with him on a lot of things, but he has never let his disagreements spill over into being so vehemently mean-spirited and nasty. He's never labeled me anything that I'm not. He's always been mega supportive, super generous when we go out, super generous with all of his money and his resources. And he treated me, and I was nobody compared to this guy, he treated me like a peer and an equal. Whereas people who don't have my, in other publications, don't have my expertise, don't have my following, they'll lecture me and talk down to me because they think my politics aren't good. So I had to go. I had to go after that.